Hello everyone, welcome to our confirmation class video this week. I hope you and your families are all well. And so there's a couple of things to go through. First of all, thank you to everyone who sent me your wanted posters and suggestions. I'm afraid my printer's not working very well tonight, so I can't print them out. But well done for using your imaginations and your ideas of who the equivalents of those people walking by on the other side were. Very interesting. I'm glad that none of you put vicar anyway on the ones you sent to me at any rate. But there was a good ideas of people who did show care and compassion to that man who was robbed. So this is the worksheet, the answer to the worksheet. Okay, if you want to have a look at that. So we should help everyone, not just our friends. So that's the message, isn't it, from the parable of the Good Samaritan. So your parents, by the time you see this video, should have received an email from me with all the worksheets for this week on them and a link to a video as well. And I have another fun activity for you, but as it relates to the story we're going to tell today, I'll wait until just before the quiz at the end before giving you the fun activity. So as ever, if you don't have anything to write with at the moment, pause the video and go and get a paper and pencil or paper and pen and listen to the video. So this week we're going to be thinking of another famous story that Jesus told, and this is called the story of the prodigal son. Or in some versions of the Bible, it's called the lost son. And it's found at Luke's Gospel, chapter 15, at verse 11. So I'm going to read you the story and then just give you a few ideas about it. But I'd like you to, again, read the story for yourself and either online if you have a modern language translation Bible at home, but make sure you read it in a modern language translation so it makes sense to you. And the first thing you'll notice about it is that it follows the two other lost stories that Jesus told, the lost sheep and the lost coin, in Luke's Gospel chapter 15. So it's another of those stories about something which was lost. And that's the key thing to remember about this story, the prodigal son. So here goes. Jesus went on to say, "There was once a man who had two sons. The younger one said to him, 'Father, give me my share of the property now.' So the man divided his property between his two sons. After a few days, the younger son sold his part of the property and left home with the money. He went to a country far away, where he wasted his money in reckless living. He spent everything he had. Then a severe famine spread over that country, and he was left without a thing. So he went to work for one of the citizens of that country, who sent him out to his farm to take care of the pigs. He wished he could fill himself with the bean pods the pigs ate, but no one gave him anything to eat. At last he came to his senses and said, 'All my father's hired workers have more than they can eat, and here I am about to starve. I will get up and go to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against God and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired workers.' So he got up and started back to his father. He was still a long way from home when his father saw him. His heart was filled with pity, and he ran, threw his arms round his son and kissed him. 'Father,' the son said, 'I have sinned against God and against you. I am no longer fit to be called your son.' But the father called his servants. 'Hurry,' he said, 'bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and shoes on his feet. Then go and get the prize calf and kill it, and let us celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead, but now he is alive. He was lost, but now he has been found.' And so the feasting began. In the meantime, the elder son was out in the field. On his way back, when he came close to the house, he heard the music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him, 'What's going on?' 'Your brother has come back home,' the servant answered, 'and your father has killed the prize calf, because he got him back safe and sound. The elder brother was so angry that he would not go into the house. So his father came out and begged him to come in. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I have worked for you like a slave, and I have never disobeyed your orders. What have you given me? Not even a goat for me to have a feast with my friends. But this son of yours wasted all your property. And when he comes back home, you kill the prize calf for him." "My son," the father answered, "you are always here with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be happy, because your brother was dead, but now he is alive. He was lost, but now he has been found." So that's one of the most famous stories that Jesus told, the prodigal son. And the first thing to say about it is prodigal is a word that most people wouldn't use in normal everyday language today, but it just literally means wasteful. It means that he didn't take care of his money or anything to do with him. He just threw it away. He was basically using his money to try to buy friends. And as we know, we can't do that. You can't buy friendship. But he thought he could just squander everything he had. And of course, the time came for it to run when it ran out. That's what the word prodigal means. But when I introduced the story, I said it's actually sometimes called the lost son. And the real point of the story is that this is another of those stories where Jesus is showing that something that's lost is so valuable to God that God goes and tries to find that thing. And this time it's a person. It's actually a son. And it's about the son saying sorry and being welcomed back by the father. Now, when you heard the story, you might have had a sneaking sympathy for the elder brother. After all, he carried on working for his dad, and it was just treated as if that was normal and no celebration was given for him. And that's a natural reaction to have. But that's not really the point of the story. The point of the story is that when the son was lost and he realised that he needed to say that he was sorry, he went back to his father just hoping to be welcomed as a servant. But the father was so pleased to see his son, who he thought he would never see again, that he forgave him and welcomed him back. Now, you might be able to see behind me, you might have noticed next to all my books, there's a picture. If you can see it, it's just there. And this is a very famous picture. This is a picture of the prodigal son being welcomed back by his father. And it's a very famous picture. That's actually a detail from it by a famous artist called Rembrandt, painted in the 1690s. So it's very old. And you can see that the son is kneeling and his father just has his hands on his shoulders and he's welcoming him back. And it's a story of forgiveness and of someone saying they're sorry and being forgiven, but the father being so pleased to see his son that he welcomes him back. And many people have looked at that and saw in that the story of how God, who's represented by the Father, will welcome back anyone who has been lost in their life and says sorry to God. So it's actually a picture of how God the Father forgives us, his children. And it's the Son in the Father, in the story then, represents all of us, and the Father represents God. So that's really what the story is about, and that's why it's one of Jesus's most famous stories. Right, so the fun activity before we have the quiz. What I want you to do is imagine that you're the editor of the local paper in the place where the father's house is. And you've heard this story about the son coming back, and you've got to design a front page of the local paper the next day, giving a headline about this story about the son coming back. Now, you can approach it a number of ways. You can say something like, "Lost son returns," or "Father's joy that his son has come back." Or you might want to take the view of the older son, and you could say, "What have you done for me?" fumes the older son. Or older son's jealous rant, and then draw a picture underneath. But whatever it is, use your imagination and design the front page of the next day's edition of the local paper telling this story, and try to get a snappy headline at the front and a picture at the front, and be as creative as you can. Right, so here's the... Oh, and please, when you do that, please get your grown-up to send them to me, and we'll have a look at some of them next week. So, the quiz. You ready? Get your paper and pencil ready. Question 1. Who did the younger son go to work for after he had spent everything he had? Who did the younger son go to work for after he had spent everything he had? Question number 2. What job was he given to do? That's the younger son. What job was the younger son given to do? Question 3. Why did the younger son plan to ask his father to be... Sorry, who did the younger son plan to ask his father to be treated like? Who did the younger son plan to ask his father to be treated like? Question number 4. What did the father in the story order to be killed? What did the father in the story order to be killed? Question 5. What did the older son say that the father had never even given him? What did the older son say that the father had never even given him? Right, so here's the answers. Number 1, one of the citizens of that country. Number 2, to take care of the pigs. Number 3, one of his hired workers. Number 4, the prize calf. And number 5, a goat. So, if you haven't got all 5 right, you need to go right back to the beginning of this video, watch the whole thing again, and carry on doing the quiz until you get all 5 right. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please do watch the video on the link that I've sent to you grown up, and read your own version before you do the fun activity. Please be as creative as you can be. Really enjoy yourselves doing it, and look forward to receiving your front page articles. So until next week's confirmation class video, take care. Bye-bye.